Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Bruce McDonald, using his head for once. I'm using the fair use notice disclaimer at the beginning of my show now because I'm going to play a number of movie clips today. And today's podcast is The Devil in Cinema. And we're going to talk a little bit about the devil because I had occasion to see Longlegs, the new movie by a gentleman called Oz Perkins, who is the son of Anthony Perkins, who played the Psycho in Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. And Jamie Lee Curtis is the daughter of Janet Leigh, who played the female victim in Psycho, and Tony Curtis, of course. It's a big lot of bloodline stuff in Hollywood, if you're noticing. Bloodline. You could say it's family business, but that's bloodline. And bloodline is integral to the topic that I'm going to discuss today. So, if you're easily scared, this might be a podcast you want to skip. If you've read The Devil in Us, you're fine. You've been inoculated. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it at all. Before we get into it, I'm just going to yammer on a little bit. By the way, anyone can call anytime this show, okay? It's all set up to grab up Skype. And, so if you want to call in. I'll throw the headset on and we can chat. And toward the end of the show, I will start taking calls. Fingerman, you should call in. I really enjoyed your comment. The one about the tautology of karma. I had to look up tautology. It's not often I have to look up a word. So I'm very grateful for that because I love language. I've spent my whole life in it. So, well, a lovely day today. We haven't had rain for about 8 or 9 days, right after the grandkids left. And I want a nice good rainfall to fill up my pool because it would be just delightful to dump myself into the pool right after a sauna, run to the back. I ordered 24 towels and 4 housecoats from Amazon. This should be here in about 10 days. So I'm really gearing up for this wilderness, jungle, Airbnb, and all of these sorts of things. Really good time. Really good time. I must say that I do feel a little bit guilty talking about happy times and being happy. When a part of the world is in serious trouble. Part of the world I was born and raised in, North America. But honestly, when you look at it, when has a part of the world not been in serious trouble in every year and every decade of our lives? It just is the way it is. There's always something being destroyed and there's always something being created on this plane of existence. And right now, North America is being destroyed. And it's not the devil, I'll tell you that. Not the devil at all. But things are going very well here. I don't know if there's going to be anybody left for tourism by the time we're done this turning in the world. I hope there is. And if not, I'll just have a wonderful place where I can have an endless line of guests. I've had somebody staying with me every month of 2024. My son was here for the first 3 months of 2024. My friend from New York, the super soldier, was here for the first 4 months of 2024. Had a friend of my son's from Portland, Oregon over here. Then Bob was over for quite a while. And now I have my friend Steve Cromwell. He's staying for a while. This is relatively new for me. Most of the time I'm up here alone with my family, so I like it. I like it quite a bit. It's quite nice, actually. So I don't know if you guys have seen this new movie out called Longlegs. Nick Cage has a role in it, and he was one of the producers. And as I said, it was written and directed by Oz Perkins, the son of Anthony Perkins of Psycho fame, the Alfred Hitchcock film in the 50s. And if you do watch movies in the horror genre, I don't often, right? I don't often. It's not a genre I follow. I haven't seen any of the Hostel films, just clips here and there on YouTube. I haven't seen any of the Saw films. They're up to like 11 or 12 now. It's like a whole franchise. I don't watch any of those stupid movies where they just tear apart human beings. I've never been on the dark web. Somebody showed me how to work the Onion browser, and I briefly popped in for about 30 seconds and then uninstalled the Tor browser and never went back. I have no interest in seeing that stuff. Believe me, the stuff that popped up in the first 5 years of my meditation was my own dark web. And I should say that when you begin meditation, for the first little while, you're going to go through all of your own demons, all of the things in your unconscious. And it could be quite intense depending what age you start meditating seriously. So you got that. Yeah, so things are going really well here. I already had my afternoon sauna. I'll have another one around 10 o'clock in 3 hours. I just love my daily saunas now. I don't shower anymore. I just wash off in the sauna. Once you get that big sweat going, it just takes all the dirt out of your pores. And all you got to do is rinse off with water, and it's better than any bar of soap. And then you're as clean as a newborn baby. It's just such a refreshing feeling. I am a little disturbed watching what's going on in North America. I'm not going to pretend to be above it. I'm not going to pretend to be detached from it. Well, I suppose I'm not losing sleep over it, but I feel it. I feel it in my solar plexus. I feel it in my heart. Not a pleasant thing to see, right? And they're giving up the whole game now. All of us speculative podcasters who've been saying for a couple years that, I've been saying for 6 or 7 years on various radio stations and before I started YouTubing, that there was a massive depopulation coming and that they were going to specifically target the first world and specifically racially and culturally target white Christians. Now, I should also say that I think this is only going to go to a certain point, and then it's going to flip. And then the depopulation is going to go after all of the other people. But I think what they're doing is they're letting white people know that they don't live in a bubble, because we have been living in a bubble for 2 or 3 decades. White people don't connect with reality properly anymore. And there's too much security in the environments that they created. Okay? So it's going to go on for a while, and then white people are going to connect with reality again, and then the backlash is going to be enormous. And I don't think government's going to interfere that much. They're going to let nature take its course. And it's going to be, as William Butler Yeats said, a terrible beauty of sorts, right? But right now what we're seeing is the reveal. And the reveal is where we see what people are capable of. Whereas in our hearts and minds we didn't believe they were capable of that. We thought most people were good. But a lot of these people coming up now, as Dr. Jack Kruse pointed out in his Concrete podcast with Danny Jones, this is the next generation of MK Ultra. They ported it down here to Central and South America. And a lot of these people crossing the border are highly programmed now. And the programs usually focus on doing things that we would consider to be psychotic. Okay? But that's what they're trained to do. So, it's an interesting time to be alive. I should also point out that the evildoers are finished. It may not seem that way now. It may even seem like they're gaining power in the world now, but they're finished. And they've been finished for a while, and what's more, they know they're finished. But they're not going gently into that good night. They're not going gently at all. They want to make as much collateral damage as possible. But they're finished. And the reason I know this, I was told spiritually in 2012. Well, about 2010 actually. And I produced a book in 2012 called The Stolen Child that explains it all. It's well worth your while to read it. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. My fiction is much better than my nonfiction. I write page-turner books that you can't stop reading. Now, the nonfiction's really good too. Light of Darkness there is a really good book. Okay? Enough with the salesmanship. So, in The Stolen Child, I posit a situation where the three chief demons on the planet are given an opportunity to leave. And they take it. And it was an intuitive transmission to me of what's going on in the world. So something that's been trapped down here and wreaking havoc upon us is being released now. Or it has been released. And so the control structure that was running this planet was on the astral. It's not there anymore. I think the technology is still on the other side of the moon and everything, but I don't know if it's still working. I don't know if it's been dismantled. But the control structure that's been running this planet's been taken down. And that's been done by benign forces who've had enough of watching the torture and the snuff film that has been the human race for the last X million number of years. It's been a long time. It's not just 6,000 years, folks. Okay? This has been going on for millions of years. Millions of years. There have been so many civilizations on this planet, it isn't funny. Way more advanced than we are now. Everybody talks about the Atlanteans. Probably the most spiritual race ever to live on this planet were the Lemurians. They're back now in the Earth astral. Okay? Lemurians helped me quite a bit with the Light of Darkness. They were around me the whole time, protecting me while I was writing that book. I don't see these things. People around me call me up and tell me, and my co-writer told me. But then, being a journalist, I like to get things corroborated 2 or 3 times. By the way, as I've said before, and as I'll say again, I personally have no interest in opening up my psychic centers. I think it's just a giant pain in the ass. And I think ultimately what it does is it slows down your spiritual progress and prevents you from merging with the infinite because you become infatuated with the toys and the powers on the astral. And it happens to so many people. Some of them do good work. I'm not saying they don't. Some of them can heal people. Met them, know them. They can really heal people. Okay? But it's not where we belong. The human consciousness is meant to migrate right back to source. And to do that, you have to disengage from all siddhis, which are psychic powers, as described in Buddhism and Hinduism. To go back and become a Satguru, one unified with the Creator, you have to give up all psychic powers. A Sadguru does not have to. People think that's his name, Sadguru. It's a title. It's a title in India. It's a class of consciousness. It's basically the Indian version of cosmic consciousness. Okay, that's all it is. Anyways, what the hell am I doing here, man? 15 minutes in, I promised you the devil in cinema, and here I am yammering on like an idiot. I do apologize. It's my nature. I can't help myself. Okay? Here's a clip from Longlegs, and if you haven't seen the movie, this is really creepy. And this is Nicolas Cage.
I'm a friend of a friend.
What friend?
My friend that lives downstairs.
Downstairs? Downstairs from where?
Everywheres. You can even call him Mr. Downstairs. Oh, there she is. The almost birthday girl. Oh. It's funny. The day you decided to go into law enforcement, you were 20. We had such a big laugh about it. Although it was only me who laughed, not she.
Who is she that you're talking about?
The seventh she. To be given the same choice that they've all been given. Crimson or clover. Accept the gift and destroy it. And destroy yourself and yourselves. Or keep it and bow down. Bow all the way down. And get right down to the dirty, dirty work. Work that gets dirty as it cleans. Like a mop. Like a rat.
But you don't work alone, do you? Someone's been helping you. An accomplice.
Knock, knock.
I don't know what if the fair use worked or not, but I just got a warning here. Heads up, we've detected video in your stream belonging to someone else. Your stream may be temporarily blocked. If you plan to continue, please... how do I finish reading this? I don't know. I can't even read the whole thing. They put this right in OBS. Hi, kitty. Yeah, well, I'm going to take my chance. If they give me a block, stay online. The block will last maybe 15 or 20 seconds after I turn the content off, and I'll be able to resume the stream. So I'm just going to take my chances. Yeah. All right, so let's get back to it.
Now, dirty work. Work that gets dirty as it cleans. Like a mop. Like a rat.
But you don't work alone, do you? Someone's been helping you. An accomplice.
Knock, knock on the farmhouse door. A nice lady with a Bible and a congratulations, you have been selected. You may now collect your gift from the church. It says it right here. Right here on the orders. On the orders from the man downstairs. The Cameron family farmhouse will be so bright and white, you can't miss it.
You're referring to Carrie Ann Camera? What did you say to her at the mental institution?
Oh, but Lee, your house was even whiter when I came to visit.
January 13th, 1974, right?
And then when house number 8 was so white, whiter than a fish's throat, whiter than tits, I knew then that the work we were doing was immaculate.
But your work's over. It's done. And you're gonna be in here for the rest of your life.
Yes. I am done. But I won't only be in here. I'll be a little bit of everywhere. Waiting. In the wings. In her father's wings.
Who's been helping you?
Well, I'll let you get started now.
Who is the man downstairs?
Why don't you ask your mommy?
My mother doesn't know anything.
Hail Satan.
Wow. So it's a very interesting horror movie, and based on the reviews I was hearing online, I decided to take a look. I mean, it didn't blow me away, but it was a very interesting exploration of negative spirituality and the devil, what we call the devil in the Western canon of spirituality. And like all of these pictures, there's this element of the supernatural, which, I mean, really, there's nothing to be afraid of. I would say that the best way to experience the supernatural is through the positive channel first, and then you become accustomed to it. And then what happens is you begin to see the negative quite easily because you're already accustomed to the positive supernatural. And so the negative supernatural is quite transparent to you. I see it quite easily. I can see when spiritual negativity is working in a person. I can see when it's working in a situation. Now, there was another really interesting movie that came out, I think, in 2023, or maybe earlier this year in 2024. I'm not quite sure. A lot of people chose not to watch it because it was really boosted and promoted by the evangelical community. And it's called Nefarious. And it was a very, very interesting film as well. And so I'm going to play a little bit from that, and then there's a bit more I have to play. I got a few clips tonight. I hope I don't get any hey man, let's just do this one more time. Let's hope they leave me alone, all right, because I'm doing this for educational purposes. And the title of the broadcast is The Devil in Cinema, and a lot of these clips are already on multiple YouTube sites. So one can assume that the film's distributors have in some way, shape, or form given consent to this, so I'm not too worried about it. Now, Nefarious gets much more into the theology and gets much more into the Christian interpretation of this theology. And it's largely accurate except for the stuff that they get wrong, which I get right in The Devil in Us, A Memoir of You and Me. Not because I'm a genius, but because I was told, and as a dutiful journalist, I simply told you. So, let's take a look at Nefarious now, okay?
What do you think? I'm ecstatic. Edward, not so much.
Why isn't Edward as happy as you are?
Because on occasion, I make him do things that he doesn't want to do.
Well, if Edward doesn't want to do them, why does he do them then?
Do you believe in demonic possession? The idea of a malevolent entity controlling a person's thoughts and actions, do you believe that?
No,
Whether you won't believe anything I'm about to tell you.
it's not important what I believe. What's important right now is what you believe.
Demons don't have beliefs, James. We have knowledge. We know.
Okay, when did you possess Edward?
Doesn't work that way. Can't just possess someone. We need a series of yeses.
So you're saying it's a
Of course,
process?
it's a process.
How does it work?
It's complicated.
Try me. I'm smarter than you think.
You're smarter than I think. Okay, James. We offer up a series of temptations, gradually increasing in terms of duration and intensity, degree of moral inequity. Absence of baptism in this case allowed us to begin work long before the age of reason. At 3, the age of 5, maybe a theft of a toy car can do a great deal. Then we move on to bigger and better things. At 8, grandmother's gift of a Ouija board gave us immediate access to his decision-making, so we began steering them without him ever calling into question exactly who was doing the steering. Enough yeses and few enough nos gave us increasing rights over the victims, physical and mental processes. Did that track, James?
It seems random, almost, unfocused.
Well, that's what we want you to think. We have a level of focus beyond your comprehension. As a matter of fact, everybody around him, friends, family, they didn't even notice the changes. It happened so incrementally. They just thought it was Eddie being Eddie.
Hey kids, I'm back. You know what happened. I don't have to tell you, right? So, they don't like me playing the clips, but I'm just going to talk it all out then. Although there was one I really wanted to play from The Exorcist, which is, I think, the best example of a demonic visage that you could possibly get. Okay? Yeah, my stream is no longer being blocked due to copyright issues. Thank you very much, YouTube. Very, very kind of you. Okay. So Nefarious is a brilliant piece of filmmaking, and I highly recommend you watch it. It has tremendous theological value and spiritual value. I mean, the real point of all of these movies, aside from scaring you to make money, is there's a tremendous education in them, whether people realize it or not. Okay? And they actually tell the truth in Nefarious that a negative entity gaining force, control of a human being's body and consciousness, or body and mind, is not an immediate thing. You know, you don't get it from sitting down on a toilet seat. It takes a long time, and you have to literally stop listening to your inner voice. You have to completely and utterly ignore it. And as Crowley said, do as thou wilt, right? And that's a sure path to getting possessed. And that, by the way, was what Crowley wanted. Crowley wanted demonic commiseration. Okay? Longlegs. Now, I don't know if the directors are occult literate when they make these movies or not, but they get a lot of things right. In the interrogation scene where Nicolas Cage, who plays Longlegs, is sitting there, you'll notice a kind of frenetic movement like this. He's moving all the time. Okay? This is indicative of demonic energy as well. Okay? And now that you know that, you're going to see it pop up some places, and it's going to surprise you. Okay? And the answer is, if they're moving like that, there's, demonic activity. Okay? If they're moving like that. And I could say where you're going to see a lot of it, but it's better you just figure it out yourself, okay? But when it pops up, you're going to get a shiver up the back of your spine, and you're going to go, oh my God, that's exactly what Bruce was talking about. Now, I'm going to try my best to play one more scene here, okay? And if I get away with it, I get away with it. If I don't, they're going to shut me down, and I'm going to be out for about another 30 or 90 seconds, okay? Which shouldn't inhibit the podcast too much. And this one, I kind of have to play, because this is like the crowning one in the whole thing. And it's from the greatest film ever put together on the topic of possession, okay? Here we go.
When people ask me what my favorite movie genre is, my response is always horror. Unfortunately, horror doesn't always have the best reputation, as it is a genre filled with quite a bit of garbage, films relying on cheap gimmicks and repetitive formulas. But when a horror film is truly great, its effects can be felt for years, if not decades. William Friedkin's The Exorcist is undoubtedly one of those films, up there with some of the very best the genre has to offer. The Exorcist is often marketed as the scariest movie of all time, and while that's certainly debatable, it's not a bad film to carry that mantle. After all, some of the most intense audience reactions ever in the history of cinema came in 1973 from this movie. Many people fainting and vomiting in the theater, probably to things like this, or this, or this. But there was always one scene that stood out to me, one that unsettled me more than anything else in the film. It's a scene that I don't see getting talked about much, probably because of all the insanity in the third act, which is what most people remember. But part of the reason why the insanity of the third act works so well is because of all that comes before it. And one scene that comes before it is Damien Karras' nightmare. Karras is a man who first became a priest and later became a psychiatrist, now working both occupations simultaneously. However, because of his medical knowledge, his faith has waned considerably.
I need reassignment, Tom. I want out of this job. It's wrong. It's no good. Some of their problems come down to faith, their vocation, the meaning of their lives, and I can't cut it anymore.
As a result, he feels like a fraud, a man woefully unfit to perform his duties as a priest.
I think I've lost my faith, Tom.
To make matters worse, he also struggles with deep guilt in regards to his mother, who lived in poor health and died alone, as Damien was unable to care for her due to distance and financial constraints.
It's my mother, Tom. She's alone. I never should have left her. At least in New York, I'd be near her, I'd be close to her.
All of these thoughts and emotions are crippling Karras, and the evil in the film knows it. He tries to get some sleep in hopes of any kind of temporary peace, but he gets anything but that. Alright, there was a lot going on there, so let's take a closer look. Firstly, the brief flash of the demon is a clear indication that the demon has invaded Karras' subconscious, which is why it knows of his mother's death and taunts Karras with that information later in the film.
Isso é polícuras menos. Na pasto cravatis.
You're not my mother! Don't listen.
Why, me?
We also hear Karras' breathing throughout the dream, which is not only creepy, but it suggests that we are viewing this dream from a perspective other than Karras'.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You know what happened there. But it doesn't matter, because I was able to get the scene that I wanted to. I don't know if everybody's being hassled like this. I don't think so. I mean, I see all kinds of other people playing stuff, and they don't seem to be as hassled as I'm being hassled, you know. So, I don't know what's happening. I gotta make sure I'm back here before I talk myself out into... It says I'm streaming, but I could still be blocked on the YouTube end. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. Wow, thank you very much, YouTube, for your wonderful fucking suggestions. That may be it for today. I don't know, we'll see. See if I come back. Okay, let's see if I'm back now. I think I might be back. Yeah, it says my stream is no longer blocked due to copyright infringement issues. Yeah, so I'm back. Okay. Yeah, so I keep getting these copyright tags, man. They're all over me. I can't imagine. I don't know how they would have an algorithm to investigate the millions and millions, hundreds of millions of people that are live streaming, to make sure that they're not, why you leave me here to die? Yeah. But here's the thing, okay? That when they reissued The Exorcist and they put those very 1-second splice scenes of the demon's face, which that guy focused on in his video, that is, in fact, what the demons look like. Okay? They look at... I've said this before. People think I'm crazy. I think somebody wrote a book about it. The Nephilim look like clowns. He calls them Nephilim. I'm not sure they're Nephilim. But the demons do look like clowns. Or they have characteristics of a clown face. And the chief characteristic is the white... sort of paste or cream or powder on their face. Like the face is chalk white. The lips are usually very red. And the smile is outrageously exaggerated. Very much like the Joker in Batman, okay? That is, by the way, a nearly perfect demonic visage. The Joker in Batman. So, believe it or not, I mean, I had these people operating as muses all through The Devil in Us. And everybody close to me got visited by a demon. And many of you who listen to me probably got visited by a demon. So, what they are about at this point in history is setting the record straight. And the record is, as I've told you, the demons are part of the divine construction here. And just like the little bit of that nefarious clip I got to play, okay, before they shut me down, you have to really invite the demons in. It's not one accident, two accidents. It's years of consistently wearing down your spiritual resources until the point where you can be overtaken by a demon. And if you get to that point, you deserve it. Okay? You haven't been paying attention to your spiritual health, and you haven't been listening to your heart, you haven't been listening to your conscience, and as far as I'm concerned, you deserve it. And if a child gets possessed, it is the transference of the parent's bad relationship with spirit. Okay? And in these satanic and Luciferian bloodlines, they raise the children to become perfectly possessed, meaning to be able to commiserate with the demons and do that sort of work. And I'm going to say something that's very controversial now. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't break the free will rules down here. Remember, it's more like a circle than a straight line. And this is the big mistake that the Christians have made with their alienation of reincarnation. It becomes much more terrifying when it's a straight line and the consequences are forever. Nothing is forever. Every bit of divine energy that animates a human being goes back to God at some point or another. I think the worst thing that can happen to you is you can have all your individuality and your total soul record down here wiped out, and then you go back to the Creator as in a like a blank sheet, as though you never existed in time. But that is reserved for just the darkest of people. People who've gone so far. I mean, at that point you're even rejected by the demonic legions, and only a human being can go that far. That consequence isn't even done to the demons, because the demons do not break the spiritual rules under which they operate. They don't have the same latitude of free will that human beings do. Okay? And only a human being can go that far. And we can go more into God than even an angel. This is the incredible construction of the human being and the incredible opportunity of being a human being. It's extraordinary, really. But to reiterate, the theology given about how possession happens in Nefarious is accurate, and the visage of the demon in The Exorcist is accurate. Okay? The guy I was working with, I named him Creeper, and he was about 9 feet tall, and they usually like to wear some kind of, I don't know what the word is, it's like the nuns call it a habit, the thing, but you never see their hair or their ears, really. You just see the face. And the one I was working with was wearing a kind of skull-fitting hood that did exactly that. And the first time I met him, it was very, very disconcerting. And then he did his best to make me feel comfortable, as much as a demon can. And then I didn't see him much after that, unless I deliberately called him forward for questions writing the book. But he was always with me, and he took me on journeys in the dream state. And I saw things no human being should see. And I don't regret it, but I don't think about them much. I try to block them. But I volunteered to write this book. And this book was a defense of the demonic legions as the excuse for everything going wrong in the world. What's going wrong in the world is there is a class of human being now darker than the demons. Okay? Darker than the demons. And for them to learn that level of darkness, they would have to commiserate with something other than demons. And the negative extraterrestrial races are darker and more dangerous to human beings than the demons. Okay? There's the whole truth told to you right there, very simply. Now, another thing I want to touch upon briefly is institutions, and why institutions are so dangerous, and why we've arrived at such a dilapidated state in our society as a result of the overuse of institutions. Okay? When you take oath to an institution, you take oath to an order structure that is reinforced by your salary, your benefits, and your pension. And if you go into one of these systems and you get married and you have children, you don't own your free will anymore. They could basically tell you to do anything, and some people will quit. If you notice, a lot of the whistleblowers we have now are in retirement. You look at the main whistleblowers on what's going on in Israel and the Ukraine, and so you're looking at Scott Ritter, the former UN weapons inspector and Marine sergeant, and you're looking at Colonel Douglas McGregor. They habitually show up on the podcasts and contradict everything we're hearing in the news. And there's a reason for that, and that reason is they're both retired. Okay, but anybody's still working. So there's a lot of people working now, but let me tell you, you stay at that long enough and compromise your conscience for a paycheck, you're opening yourself up to demonic incursion. A lot of people don't realize this, and a lot of institutional people, doctors, nurses, become very demonically infested or demonically bothered. And it's because they do horrible things, and they rationalize it by saying, well, it was just my job. I was instructed and trained to do this. I was told to do this. But from the perspective of the divine, it doesn't matter. Why would God give you free will if you're just going to surrender it to an institution? Okay? This is why the subtitle for The Light of Darkness could just as easily have been Institutional Satanism instead of A Warrior's Tale for Our Time. But The Light of Darkness is very much about how the institutions have done this. And the institution that allows institutions is money. So money is the womb of the institutions. It makes the whole system work. This fiat note, these credit notes we live by, it makes the whole system go around, but it's extremely demonic. And it was invented, maintained, and operated by very demonic people. Okay? So you wonder why there's so much demonic activity. Now, another thing you notice about the demonic is it very plainly represents itself. Okay? So where the divine is exemplified by beauty, and specifically what the human eye finds beautiful, the demonic must represent itself as ugly if it has a visual representation. This is why the faces are so terrifying. This is why Reagan McNeil's face became such a contortion and such a grotesquerie in The Exorcist, with the fluids coming out of her nose and her eyes all red and puffy and her skin broken and pus, and because that is the demonic. It is the antithesis of beauty, okay, in the dualistic system. The angelic, if you want to call it the angelic, is beauty and truth. And the demonic is ugliness and lies. Okay? And you look at the world around us now. What do you see? I mean, look at some of these trannies. Look at that Levine, the Biden appointee to the defense position. And what does it love to do? I'm not going to call it he or she. If they want me to play the pronoun game and they disfigure themselves to such a point that the pronoun becomes ambiguous, I'm just going to call them it. What does it do? It makes itself ugly. It is a grotesquerie. You feel uncomfortable just looking at it. Look at these drag queens in Storytime. Okay? What do they look like? Do you feel comfortable? And do they not do a lot? So many of them, whether they're conscious of it or not. Now remember, the spiritual can be manifested unconsciously. And that is usually the case when you're dealing with the negative spirituality. Many people who get possessed and then depossessed do not remember what happened when they were possessed, even if they were possessed for months or a year. They have a complete memory wipe. Okay? Very interesting when you think about it, right? So it doesn't matter whether they're doing it consciously or unconsciously. Look at those drag queens. What do? They make their faces chalk white, usually. They make the mascara around their eyes raccoon black. And they do absurd red lipstick with the exaggerated smiles. Do I really have to explain this? It is what it is, okay? It is what it is. In many ways, the mission of Christ was very much a mission of taking on the demonic energies, which is why he arrived in the geographic location he did, and which is why he addressed the people he did. Okay? It's very interesting that Christ never said anything about the Roman occupation. He reserved all of his criticism for the rabbinical clergy, specifically the Pharisees and the Sadducees, which did not represent the totality of Judaism at that time, but it represented the corrupt demonic aspects of Judaism. Because remember, they'd already been given many of the demonic teachings by that point, because Solomon existed 900 years before that. Okay? Be careful what you wish for. Power is always controlled by the demonic forces. Okay? God doesn't work in power, God works in love. Okay? So anywhere you see concentrations of power, it's demonic energy. I don't care where it is. Washington, D.C., the Department of Defense. Why do you think Belgium is so demonically infested and one of the capitals of child trafficking now? Any ideas? Bueller? Well, it's where all the globalist institutions are in that part of the world. And it goes right back to the Amsterdam Jews that formed the Bank of England. Okay? You can see the ley lines of this stuff very clearly when you know what you're looking for, and it's impossible to miss. And it just is what it is, and nobody can deny it who has consciousness. A factual person, a rational and logical person without spiritual vision or spiritual discernment could make a good argument and probably convince most of the sleeping people that you were crazy if you tried to make my argument. 9 out of 10 people would believe them. Doesn't make them right. Doesn't make them right at all. If anyone wants to call in, now would be the time. And we can take a few calls. Boy, did I ever get spanked tonight, eh? By YouTube. All over me. Holy cow, man. No peace whatsoever for Bruce. You know, all I'm trying to do is show a few clips from movies. And like, holy cow, I don't know what's up with those dudes, man. Just doing what they're doing. So if you want to call, give me a call. But so The Devil in Cinema is actually relatively accurate. Like Nefarious is quite accurate. There's a lot of good counsel in the Bible, and there's a lot of good counsel in Christianity about these demonic energies. Okay? And there's a lot of truth in The Exorcist and a lot of truth in Nefarious about these energies as well. But the one takeaway is that's what they look like. In fact, some people have even suggested, and as I said, there is a book on this. Let me see if I can find it and present it to you, and maybe you can buy it. After you buy my books, of course. But this is apparently a very well-researched book. The Nephilim Are Clowns. Let's see if that's the title, or I get close enough. So there's a Reddit page. Yeah, so the author is called Paul Stobbs, and you can find some, if you just want to watch a YouTube video on it, then you can do that. And STOBBS. Yeah, so the Nephilim looked like clowns. Volume 1, The History. And there's a Reddit page called Nephilim Looked Like Clowns. I was listening to a podcast with Paul Stobbs. So I can tell you that this class of being, this class of demonic being actually exists, and they do look like clowns. I've met them twice. The first time I didn't know what I was meeting, really. And that was in about 2011 when I was working on The Stolen Child, and it visited. A lot of times I get visited in meditation. Okay, so when I'm totally relaxed and I get all my day thinking shut down, like, hey, I gotta go this, I gotta go buy some milk, I gotta go buy some eggs, I gotta get this done for work. When all that chatter in your mind is gone, and then the images just come, and very much like they present the image in the dream in The Exorcist. That's very much what a meditative state is like. And you have to pay very close attention to what those images are, because each one of those images is like a book of information. And if you get 3 or 4 in a row, you have a volume of information to decode. And by the way, this is the art of spiritual advancement, is decoding. Because the consciousness speaks languages that are nonverbal. Okay? And you have to learn to speak these languages. And there's no way around it. So that's what the Nephilim look like, and that's what the demons look like. They look very, very much like those clowns. All right, I'm going to pack it in for tonight. 2 blocks. I got stopped twice. They're all over me now. I guess that fair use notification didn't help at all. I am Bruce McDonald, and this has been the Talamanca Review.